Listen up, because this is a manhwa you won't forget. And trust me, you don't want to. Let's dive right into it. Luciel. Elysia's voice was sharp, urgent. If the nanny gives you tea, don't drink it, just throw it away. Luciel blinked, confused. But if I do drink it, then what? Elysia's voice wavered, barely reaching her, like a whisper from another world. Close your eyes and draw over 1,000 circles. Why? Luciel asked, but the words felt distant, muddled, slipping past her ears like a dream echo. Elysia's expression softened. She called her by the nickname only she used, Luciel. Then, in a warm voice, she whispered, "I love you." Her fingers tightened gently on Luciel's shoulder. Luciel winced. Ow, that hurts. Then the flower shattered. A sudden sharp noise split the air. Luciel gasped, instinctively calling out, "Alicia!" The air changed, heavy, suffocating. Elysia clutched her ears as the atmosphere grew thick with something ominous. Luciel jolted awake, and the world turned against her. "Kill her, swindler!" Voices everywhere, ringing in her ears. She was bound, forced onto her knees, her hands tied. The crowd pressed in, a sea of hatred and fury. "Die! Kill her!" they roared, their words crashing over her like waves. The crown prince stood above her, sneering. "Look, Luciel, they call you a swindler, a fraud, the one who makes fake jewels." His smirk widened, cruel and triumphant. "To be honest, it was your jewels that led to the collapse of House Belstein." Magic crackled around his sword as he infused it with power. "And now, allow me to take over the empire." The mob erupted in fury. "She's a fraud, a swindler who makes stones instead of jewels. Die!" Stones pelted her, one striking her eye. Pain exploded, blood dripping down her face. Her mind reeled. Me? A fraud? A swindler? Is this what I get for all the sacrifices I made? A voice whispered in her head, "Luciel, my kind, pitiful sister." Luciel bit her lip, her heart aching. "Elysia, I'm so tired." Tears welled up. I can't take it anymore." She remembered. A younger Luciel, innocent, naive. The man who imprisoned them had told her, his voice cold and unfeeling, "Your older sister is dead. She threw herself into the lake." Little Luciel had blinked up at him. "Elysia is dead?" The man nodded. "Yes." Then, with a twisted smile, he murmured, "Your jewel-like eyes, they're even more beautiful than hers." He brought a candle close, the flame flickering near her face. "It's your turn now, my jewel slave, my crystal fairy." Crystal fairies, mystical beings from the Empire's founding legend blessed, or perhaps cursed, with eyes like precious gems, eyes that could create jewels from emotions. Luciel had been the last one left, a treasure, a resource, exploited by House Orvia, by House Cavil, by the Crown Prince himself, used for wealth, for mana crystals, for power. Her entire life had been servitude, a puppet, a tool. Too many had died, too many innocent lives lost because of her power. I should have fled, even if it meant facing death. Maybe then my conscience wouldn't be so heavy. Maybe then House Belstein wouldn't have collapsed. The Crown Prince pressed his sword to her throat. "Luciel," he drawled, his smirk returning, "do you feel anything in your final moments?" His voice was laced with amusement. "Let your fear of death turn into jewels." Luciel turned her head away, silent. His patience snapped. "Arrogant wench!" He raised his blade. "Have it your way, then." The crowd screamed. "Off with her head! Kill her! Die!" All she had wanted was to be happy. With Elysia, to find someone she could love, to live a normal life. But fate had never given her that chance. She clenched her hands. I can't believe I'm going to die as a wicked criminal, she thought of Elysia. I'm sorry, I failed to keep my promise. And now I feel nothing. The sword sliced through her throat. Luciel gasped. The world spun. Her body collapsed onto the wooden platform. Ah, finally, I can be reunited with Alicia. The Crown Prince clicked his tongue. Tsk, is she really useless now? Suddenly, the ground trembled. A disturbance in the crowd. People screamed. What the hell? A sharp neigh tore through the air, and the prince's expression darkened. What is going on? He asked in a calm yet lethal tone. Then, through the chaos, he saw him. A man on horseback? The prince's breath hitched. His eyes widened, fury clashing with something dangerously close to longing. Reynold? He clenched his fist, a mysterious energy swirling around him. The very air pulsed with an ominous force. People collapsed, fainting where they stood. Reynold's steely gaze locked onto the prince. He moved forward silent, menacing. The Crown Prince stood frozen in shock. And then, I am here to avenge my family, came a cold, unforgiving voice. The prince whirled around, horror flashing across his face. What? When? When did you get here? A hand shot out, clamping around his throat. The prince gasped, struggling as he was lifted off the ground and slammed into a strange white box. A surge of magic wrapped around him, suffocating him. He choked. Luciel, barely conscious, watched through heavy-lidded eyes. Her body was battered, her breath weak. Regret gnawed at her. She wanted to beg for forgiveness, but what good would it do now? If I get another chance at life, she thought, I will live for my own sake. A flicker of light. A soft hum vibrated through the air as something bright coiled around her. A stone near her glowed fiercely. And then, Luciel's eyes fluttered open. Huh? What happened? Her voice trembled. I thought I died. She blinked. Her reflection stared back at her. A child's face. Her heart pounded. I'm a child again. Time had reversed. Days, months, years wiped clean. She had returned to the past. She clutched her tiny hands, still trembling. If this were a dream, I should have woken up by now. A memory surfaced. Your sister died 3 days ago. It's about time you accepted that. A cruel voice sneered. Are you still going to be stubborn? I told you to drink this. A cup was shoved toward her, but she struggled, refusing. Elysia's words echoed in her mind. If the nanny gives you tea, don't drink it. Just throw it away. Can you do it, Lucia? Tears welled up. Elysia was trying to protect me. Her small hands trembled. I can't create jewels yet. Does that mean I haven't awakened? And then, a pulse of energy surged through her. Mana. Raw, untamed power flooded from her fingertips. Her breath hitched. The mana in my body, it's just as powerful as when I was an adult. She clenched her fists. This was no dream. This is a second chance that God has given me. Perhaps it's a sign to begin everything anew. She turned toward the door. I have to escape before the nanny returns. Slipping through the hall, she peeked around the corner. The corridor was empty. Heart pounding, she climbed the stairs. And then, the door slammed open. A voice. Don't worry and get some rest. Luciel froze. It wasn't the nanny. A boy strolled in, humming, carrying a newspaper. He plopped down on the grass meant for livestock, flipping the pages lazily. Luciel crouched behind the tall grass, peeking at him. Her eyes caught a headline. An auction. Her mind raced. Marquis Cavil. He was bitter about losing a painting to an old man from House Belstein at an auction. House Belstein. The very name sent a chill down her spine. a family shrouded in mystery. Even the imperial family feared their power. Her heart pounded with sudden resolve. House Belstein should easily be able to crush someone like Count Orvia. She had a plan. Rising from her hiding place, she whispered, "Tom?" The boy flinched. "Eek! Lucille?" She stepped closer, her voice cold and sharp. "Listen carefully." What? What? How did you even get out here?" Her lips curled into a smirk. "If you don't do as I say, I'll tell the master you stole his pocket watch, pipe, and that newspaper." Tom's face went pale. "You think he'll believe you?" Lucille's gaze darkened. He's suspicious by nature and doesn't tolerate servants touching what's his. A shudder ran through Tom's body. "What will happen if I tell him to search your room?" Tom gulped. What do you want?" Lucille straightened her back, eyes burning with determination. "I want to pray for my sister. Get me a carriage to the temple." Her tone left no room for argument. Tom hesitated, then sighed, "Fine." As the carriage rattled down the road, Luciel clenched her hands. "I need to find a place where I will be safe until I become an adult." She gazed out the window, determination blazing in her young eyes. "And I have to find a member of House Belstein before Count Orvia finds me." The most noble way for a noble family's child to be integrated into another house is through marriage. Finally, she arrived at the auction hall. The grand building loomed before her, its golden chandeliers and marble floors a stark contrast to the dirt-streaked child standing at the entrance. But how will I find a member of House Belstein? She wondered, her heart pounding. Before she could take another step, a rough hand grabbed her collar. "How did you get in here, kid?" A guard snarled, lifting her off the ground like she weighed nothing. Luciel struggled. "No, I'm not a thief." The guard sneered. "A little beggar like you? You're already lying through your teeth." They threw her onto the hard marble floor. Pain shot through her arms, but she gritted her teeth. The humiliation stung more than the bruises. "Don't mind the child," someone in the audience muttered. Then a voice cut through the noise. "The child is with me?" The entire hall went silent. The guards stiffened and turned. One of them stammered, "Are you Duke Belstein?" A man stepped forward, his golden hair shining under the dim lights, his crimson eyes like embers in the dark. He responded lazily, as if their fear amused him. "Gilead von Belstein." The moment his name was spoken, the guards fell to their knees. "Please forgive us, my lord. We didn't know." Luciel, still sprawled on the floor, stared up at the man in shock. This was the powerful figure she had been seeking, and yet he was standing before her now, smiling in amusement. He extended a hand toward her. This is when a proper thank you is in order. Luciel scrambled to her feet and bowed hastily. "Thursday, thank you." His gaze sharpened. "You lied about being a noble servant. That was a risky move." She flinched. I'm sorry." "Are you here by yourself?" he asked, his tone neutral. Well, how do I explain this?" Before she could think of an answer, grrr. Her stomach growled loudly. Lucille's face turned crimson as she clutched her midsection. Gilead smirked. "If you came alone, you can stay with me until the auction is over." Embarrassed but grateful, she nodded. "Oh, okay." A few moments later, Luciel sat before a table covered with warm milk tea and a beautiful strawberry tart. Her wide eyes reflected the golden hue of the creamy drink. "Be careful, it's hot," Gilead warned, taking a sip. Luciel cautiously lifted the cup and took a small sip. Her eyes widened. Soft, sweet, warm. She had never tasted something so wonderful. Gilead chuckled at her expression. The real treat is hidden underneath the foam. Luciel dipped her spoon inside and tasted it. It's so rich and delicious. This taste, it's like the happiness I feel right before I fall asleep. Silence. Then Gilead burst into laughter. That is a unique way to describe it. Try the tart too. She did, and tears welled in her eyes. Why? Why does this feel so foreign? So comforting? Meanwhile, across the auction hall, chaos was brewing. Luciel is gone! The auction will begin soon? That item? You idiot! You can't even watch a child! Go find her right now! A voice echoed through the hall, announcing the next item. Ladies and gentlemen, the item you've all been waiting for? Luciel leaned toward Gilead and whispered, "Bid 700,000 tillings on that vase." His brows lifted. It will be worth 1,000 times more later, she said confidently. My dreams are very accurate. He looked at her with interest. Is that so? A moment later, 500,000 tillings, Marcus Cavill's voice rang out just as Luciel predicted. Gilead stroked his beard thoughtfully. She was right. Luciel smiled. I'll help you get rich. The auction ended successfully, and Gilead secured the vase. As they exited, Luciel's eyes sparkled at the sight of his luxurious carriage. Wow, she gasped. Gilead glanced at her, amused. I've acquired a great masterpiece thanks to you. So, where do you live? Luciel hesitated. The truth is, I don't have anywhere to go. A long silence followed. She clenched her hands, trying to stop them from shaking. Then, you can get on the carriage, he finally said. She hesitated, then climbed in. Gilead looked at her again. Child, what is your na? He stopped mid-sentence. She fidgeted. Are you afraid of me? Pardon? Oh, no, not at all, she smiled. I think you're a sweet and warm person. He blinked. Sweet? Sweet? And then, laughter erupted from his lips, loud and hearty. Well, that's the first time anyone's ever said that to me. Luciel stared at him, confused. For some reason, I think I can show him my eyes. Taking a deep breath, she removed her hat. I am Luciel from House Orvia. Please take me to Blestine Manor. I need to speak with the Duke. Gilead's eyes widened. Those eyes... A long silence passed. Then, in a quiet voice, he muttered, This is the first time I've regretted giving up my title. He placed a hand over his heart. My name is Gilead. I shall take you to the Duke of Blestine. Luciel gasped, tears pricking her eyes. Really? Then, unable to contain herself, she shouted, Thank you. Gilead burst into laughter once more. Knocking on the carriage door, he commanded, Let us depart. Yes, master, the driver replied. As the carriage rolled forward, Luciel stared out the window, watching the world pass by. The scenery was breathtaking, the golden sunset casting a warm glow over everything. Sleep tugged at her eyelids. Thank goodness, I'm finally on my way to Blestine. And with that, she drifted into a peaceful slumber. The Duke's voice carried a curious tone. Luciel from House Orvia? But wait, she was dressed like someone from a count's household. Suspicious, isn't it? What was her story? She clearly wanted to escape from House Orvia. But why? And then there was that claim she had seen the future in a dream. A bold statement. And yet, sure enough, Marquess Cavill called out the exact price she had predicted. 500,000 tillings. Incredible. Now, 700,000 tillings was hardly a fortune for House Blestine, so I played along. But judging by the Marquess's reaction, that vase had to be worth far more. And then there were her eyes shining like those of the legendary fairies. This girl was no ordinary child. I tapped her shoulder, watching her sleep soundly. Perhaps, just perhaps, she might be able to help my grandson, the one who refuses to open up to anyone. My instincts have never been wrong. At the very least, she wouldn't cause harm. She stirred. A blanket was draped over her. She sat up, eyes wide. What is this? Did he put this over me? She squeezed the soft fabric in her hands. Rumors had always said House Belstein was ruthless, but perhaps those were all lies. Her gaze shifted to me. Oh, I had milk on my beard. How embarrassing. She stifled a giggle. I wish I could have another cup of milk tea. She turned to the window. Darkness had fallen. It got dark all of a sudden. I glanced at her. Once you cross the boundary of the wall, the sun sets faster. She shivered slightly. Are you scared? Don't worry, I'm here. She nodded. Yes, Lord Grandfather. I chuckled. From now on, you can just call me Grand. Before I could finish, the carriage jolted to a stop. Master, the thorns are blocking the way, the coachman called out. I sighed. Well, it can't be helped since the sun is setting. I turned to Luciel, ready to reassure her, then I saw her face. Oh no, you're nauseous. Her complexion was pale, her body trembling slightly. I didn't hesitate. I lifted her into my arms and stepped out of the carriage. There's no need to be frightened. There aren't any monsters here. She clutched my jacket. I'm cold. And then she whispered to herself, finally, I've arrived at Belstein Duchy. She gasped. Wow. And then something incredible happened. The thorns started moving. She clung to me. Huh? The thorns are moving? I frowned. I hadn't used any magic. Then how? Gently, I placed her on the ground. Luciel, it seems the thorns are making way for you. She blinked at me, flustered. And me? I knelt before her. Will you approach the thorn bush? You don't have to if you're scared. She took a deep breath. I'll try. The moment she stepped forward, the bushes parted like obedient servants. Her face lit up with pure wonder. Grandfather, the thorns are avoiding me. I watched in awe. It was said that fairies once ruled this forest. Luciel? She seemed like one herself. We arrived at the mansion. The maids bowed. Welcome back, Lord Belstein. One of them hesitated, eyeing the child in my arms. Who is this child? She bowed to Luciel, smiling kindly. Greetings, miss. I am Eva, the butler in charge of the main residence of House Belstein. Luciel peeked up at her. My name is Luciel. Miss Luciel, please wait in the drawing room. The Duke will be here soon. Just then, footsteps echoed from the grand staircase. Did you have a safe trip, Father? And there he was. Golden hair, mesmerizing red eyes, and broad shoulders, Luvid von Belstein, a man of unmatched presence. His eyes flickered to Luciel. Is this the guest who has been looking for me? Yes, he answered. I brought her here because she wanted to meet the head of House Belstein. Luvid's expression was cold. Do you think the head of House Belstein meets just anyone? Luciel flinched. She clasped her hands together. Greetings, Duke Belstein. I am Luciel of House Orvea. Though I am an illegitimate child, I am of noble blood. His red eyes bore into her. She looked terrified, lowering her head, her face pale. I came here with an offer. His gaze didn't waver. He turned to Eva. Show the guest to the study. Eva nodded. Yes, Your Grace. The study was elegant, lined with bookshelves and a grand oak desk. As we entered, Luciel and I continued our pleasant conversation, much to Luvid's obvious irritation. What an unusual sight. he remarked dryly. I chuckled. You should get used to it. Luvid sighed and sat with us, still skeptical. Aren't you curious about how I met Luciel? I teased. I am more interested in my guest's business here. Before she could answer, the butler arrived with a towering parfait. Luciel's eyes went wide. That's a parfait with strawberries too. She was completely distracted. Eva chuckled. The chef got excited about making a dessert for once and ended up creating this parfait tower. I turned to Luvid. How about we discuss things over tea, Your Grace? He sighed. Sure, enjoy your parfait. Luciel took a bite. It's like I'm eating a bite of snow. Luvid raised an eyebrow. She sure likes to eat. Did she starve all day? He smirked. She's eating like a bunny. And then, much to my amusement, he laughed. Not a chuckle, not a smirk. A full, hearty laugh. And then he immediately covered his mouth. So tell us about your business here, Lady Luciel. Luciel froze. Keg. Oh no, I got distracted by the food. I made the busy Duke wait for me. She put the spoon down, straightened her posture, and steeled herself. She stood. I am here with an offer, Duke Belstein. I know that you have a son around my age. Please allow me to marry him so that I can be protected until I come of age. Silence. Luvid tilted his head, voice dangerously smooth. What an interesting proposal. Indeed, House Belstein was feared across the empire. No one dared to approach them for marriage. That meant she might actually have a chance. She continued boldly, the marriage will last until I become an adult. After that, I will get divorced immediately. My eyes widened. Now this was getting interesting. And the conditions? You said this was an offer? She flinched as the Duke stepped closer. His presence was suffocating. Oh? His voice was calm, yet chilling. Then you must have something fitting in exchange. His gaze darkened. Do you not? Her breath hitched. She was flustered, desperate. Monsieur Magic Stones, she blurted out. I can tell you the location of magic stones. A moment of silence. Then a smirk. Belstein already has a site where we extract them, he said, his voice laced with amusement. That information has no value to us. She swallowed hard. Moreover, we don't need any material goods. His smile widened, eyes gleaming, as Belstein's treasury is more than overflowing. Her heart sank. He doesn't need any material goods. Then, what do I have left to offer? Her fists clenched. If this doesn't work, there's only one thing I can do. She took a deep breath. There will be a big landslide on Lafayette Mountain soon, she declared. You must protect the nearby farms and evacuate the people. His eyes narrowed. How do you know that? I see the future in my dreams. The room turned eerily quiet. It's raining right now, she continued. Send people to the mountain. Have them check for any strange noises. His father, watching closely, finally spoke. I think you should listen to Luciel. The Duke's gaze flickered. The thorn branches of the Forest of Darkness cleared a path for her, he muttered. Is that true? His father nodded. Tusk. A flash of light. Scout Squad C and D, the Duke barked. I have an urgent order for you. Yes, Your Grace. Head toward Lafayette Mountain immediately. Observe if there are any strange sounds. Moments later, a voice crackled through the communication stone. Your Grace, the closer we get to the mountain, the more we hear odd noises. It sounds like something is collapsing near the mountain path. The room fell into silence. The Duke exhaled. I see, all right. His fingers curled into a fist. His voice was low, gloomy. You have precognitive dreams? He took a step toward her, then another. What else did you see? Luciel froze as his towering figure loomed over her. But before he could come any closer, "Luvid," his father interjected. "You'll scare the child." She inhaled sharply. The black wall fell. The Duke and his father stiffened. "What?" Lucille bit her lip. "I only recall fragments of my dreams, so I can't give you all the details. But I promise I will make sure Belstein doesn't fall." At the same time, a letter arrived at the mansion. To his son, "We have chosen your marriage contract partner. She is a girl from House Orvia, as tiny as a cotton ball. I will be introducing her to you soon, so be prepared." Kassaif von Belstein sighed, rubbing his temple. Judging by the blunt tone, this letter must be from father. His gaze darkened. What kind of nonsense is this? The eldest son of Duke Belstein narrowed his eyes. He arranged my marriage without any prior discussion with me. His grip on the letter tightened. And what is this about a marriage contract? Curiosity tugged at him. Who is she? But then he shook his head. Marriage is a luxury for me. I have to refuse. Meanwhile, in another part of the mansion, my name is Bessie. And I am Rose. Pleased to meet you. Lucille blinked as the maids introduced themselves. Will you tell us your name? They washed her clean, dressed her in fine clothes, and dried her hair. The Duke examined her with a sharp gaze. You are far from presentable. She clenched her fists. One morning, as she sat by the window, memories of her past life resurfaced. The jewels I created contained not only mana, but also the power of elemental magic. When the Crown Prince discovered this, he had the sorceress Erica study them, which ultimately led to the creation of the magic sword. Her heart pounded. To live this new life, I must make the infinite power of the jewels my own. To do so, I must learn to control the mana within me. Mana breathing, that's the first step. She closed her eyes, taking slow, steady breaths. Magic swirled around her. A bright blue light flickered at her fingertips. Suddenly, my lady. Luciel gasped, the magic instantly vanishing. She turned wide-eyed. It's me, Ellington. His Grace introduced me to you before. Do you remember me? She swallowed. Hello, Ellington. Yes, I remember you. Her mind raced. He didn't see that, right? Ellington smiled. I see you were studying House Belstein. Luciel forced a nod. Oh, yes, I realized I didn't know a lot of things. Impressive that you can read such a complicated book, he praised. Actually, I read this one when I first started working here. Suddenly, his eyes lit up. Ooh. What is it? Luciel asked. He started rambling. It chronicles the achievements of the former Duke Gilead and the current Duke. Luciel blinked. Woo! Thursday? That's amazing. He paused, chuckling. Look at me rambling. Anyway, they are truly admirable people. Luciel stared at him. Incredible! Can I really help these people? Yes, I can. Only I know the future. Only I can do this. Deep in thought, she murmured to herself. Someone who can support House Helston and doesn't agree with the Crown Prince. Her eyes sharpened. The Queen. Ellington tilted his head. My lady? Lucille shook her head. Oh, nothing. Ellington sat down. Did my story bore you? She blinked. Did I really? Then she grinned. Ta-da! She held out a small candy. Ellington blinked. Candy? She smirked. I'm bribing you. Pardon? With the hope of getting along with you. He narrowed his eyes. And what is the reason for this sweet bribe? Is there something you want? Luciel leaned closer, whispering in his ear. Please be on my side. Little did she know, outside the hallway, someone was watching. Leon von Belstein, the second son of the Duke, scowled. A shoe flew past her. Huh? Luciel gasped. Did something just fly by? A child's voice snapped. Go away. She turned. What? Leon glared. Go away. Fine. She didn't back down. Instead, she grabbed his leg. Yeah, his leg. He froze. His eyes widened, completely shocked. He definitely wasn't expecting that. I guess you don't need this either, huh? She smirked, gripping his ankle. And that's when his face turned red, not from embarrassment, but from pure, unfiltered rage. Then, in the most dramatic voice possible, he muttered, Monsieur, my brother, will never marry you. Go back to your home. I just stared at him. Really? That's what this is about. She crossed her arms and said, Sorry, but I can't do that. I made a promise to His Grace. And boom, that was it. That was the moment he snapped. His fists clenched, his whole body shook, his golden eyes burned with fury. And then, fire. Actual fire started flickering at his fingertips. The air around them heated up instantly. Sparks crackled in his palms. His voice dropped, low and dangerous. I won't, he muttered. Then boom! A burst of flames shot up around him. I won't allow it! The hallway was suddenly blazing with heat. My heart pounded. Was he really about to burn me alive? Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate every single one of you for sticking around till the end. And that's where I'm stopping for now. What do you guys think? Did it blow your mind or leave you wanting more? Let me know in the comments. I'm dying to hear your thoughts. And hey, don't forget to smash that like button and drop a comment if you'd love to see part 2. Your support means the world to me.